He's going to talk about Vienna's new tourism strategy, and he's also going to tell us shortly about their reaction to the recent terror threat at a Taylor Swift conference. No, concert, of course. So, Norbert, please give him a good round of applause. Welcome.
Thank you very much for the invitation and the kind introduction. It's always a little bit of a sign how old you get when you have so many titles, but I can't help it. It's like it is. It's a great honor to be here to talk to you about our recent strategy for Viennese tourism, but also beyond. And as mentioned before, I was also asked to tell a little bit about disaster management, where we had the opportunity to deal with in the last year, actually exactly 1 year ago, with the Taylor Swift concert, which did not happen in Vienna. So, you see the title is Optimum Tourism. That's the title of our strategy. It tells a little bit about our approach. It has to do with the idea that life in a city is negotiated every day from anew. And so are our strategies. Life in big cities can be stressful, can be annoying, but also very inspiring. And that's the reason why we invent the city every day from anew. And that's why the strategy is actually about finding this sweet spot. So when it's not enough or when it's too much, we see in the presentation. So I start with a leitmotif. You know this from a different context, actually. Ask not what your city can do for tourism, but what tourism can do for your city. So this is very much a leitmotif we have had for many years. And actually, we don't talk about tourism anymore. We talk about visitor economy. Because not every visitor is a tourist. Every tourist is a visitor, but not every visitor is a tourist. We have 30,000 diplomats in our city. They are visitors, but they're not tourists. But we still have to think their necessities, their ways of life. And of course, we often forget that tourism is very, very much linked to geopolitical things, to lifestyle questions, how our lifestyles are changing, how media are influencing our lives. And we are very close to people. It's a people's business, which is a great thing. And I would say, what are we doing in our industry? We are enabling sweet, lovable encounters between human beings. That should be what tourism is about, actually. Yeah, of course, we know the Instagram post is important. It's a huge motivation for people to travel. But at the end, it's about enabling sweet, lovable, inspirational encounters between human beings. I think this is, for me, always a very nice thought, actually, and an inspiration and a driver for our activities. So we see a lot of going on in this world right now. And there are many forces of change, and we have to react on it, or we have to anticipate even better. Sometimes we can anticipate things, sometimes we can only react on things. And just to give you some examples, climate change, really on the right side down, this is the development of the temperatures on the continent, what's going on. So Vienna will be, together with Budapest, we will be the hottest cities on the continent. So what does it mean for the people living there? What does it mean for our visitors? So we have to deal with these questions. You see, the discussions you also have, we have it. When it is enough with tourism? When are there too many tourists in our cities, in our regions? How can we define it, or can we even define it? The gentleman on the left side down, geopolitics, we don't know what we are facing next year, actually. Things are possible now in global politics we would never have thought 5 years ago would be possible. So every year the step goes up or down, depends on which side you are. What's going to happen? And another important point, and this is the next hook actually, it's the urban growth. 80% of the economic output of the world is produced in our cities, 80%. We also produce a lot of emissions, and we are troubling when it comes to climate sometimes, but 80% of the economic output worldwide comes from our cities. So, and that's why cities are growing. Urban growth is actually one of the biggest phenomena we have right now, we're facing right now. And this has to do with tourism, because very often tourism is a scapegoat for everything. You see here the growth ratios of the big European cities. And you see Reykjavik, 12.9% growth population-wise. Vienna, number 3, after 2 Nordic cities. That means the attractiveness of our cities are endlessly growing right now, but causing problems. Vienna grew by 300,000 people, almost the population of Iceland, in 10 years. That means we have our difficulties in housing, we have our difficulties in public transport, we have our difficulties in density in public realm. And very often it's said, okay, that's tourism. No, not always. Sometimes we are the bad guys, but not always. And this is this stem parallel, you know, from skiing. We have to organize growth. We have to organize growth in tourism, but we also have to organize growth when it comes to our cities, and this is very important. And we are facing a situation, and before the First World War, there were the 4 big cities in Europe: London, Paris, Vienna, Berlin. Before 1918, Vienna was the 5th biggest city in the world. And out of this big 4, Vienna is the only city which still has less inhabitants than before 1918. London is bigger, Berlin is bigger, Paris is bigger, because we lost an empire. So we did everything to lose an empire, so it was the right thing to lose it, but this was very challenging. And this brings me to another thing we should always keep in mind when we talk about growth. Before the pandemic, actually, it was a very chic thing to talk about degrowth. Oh no, we don't need growth. We have to degrowth. We have to make everything small and little and lovable and nice. Then the pandemic struck. Then the Ukraine war struck with the energy, which is not the case here, because you sit on your huge energy reservoir, which most of the countries in the world don't. So suddenly growth became very important. And we have in many sectors in Europe right now a degrowth in many sectors, but not because we want it, but because we have it, because we are in between of redefining our role in the world. But Europe is very confused right now. We don't know where to go between these huge blocks, China, the US, India. So where's our role right now? So we see degrowth in many sectors, not in tourism. Tourism in Vienna is one of the few sectors with a real growth, which helps the city and which brought up our reputation in city politics, actually. And we see now what degrowth means. Degrowth means we cannot afford to answer the question of our present living, but even more of the questions we are facing in the future. Decarbonization of our energy supply, dealing with artificial intelligence. We have no idea, we just had a conversation before, we have no idea what artificial intelligence will bring. It will bring huge changes, but I'm not the guy who tells you what comes, because I have no idea. I admit I have no idea. I listen to the gurus sometimes, and they say, okay, you know everything, I know nothing. But we have to be prepared, also financially, for this idea of managing our present life and managing our future life. And so this brings us to Optimum tourism, the Viennese model for good growth. And I brought a little video to show you what's it about. And I think it should start. Yeah, now.
While everyone's talking about crisis, one fact tends to get overlooked. Cities are growing, massively. This growth leaves us facing new challenges. And the good thing about it, Vienna's up to the job. With a clear vision, keep Vienna livable. And build on the city's existing qualities, which is why we are focusing on Optimum tourism. Good growth so as not to destroy what Vienna is loved for. After all, 9 out of 10 locals have a positive view of tourism. And 9 out of 10 visitors would recommend Vienna as a destination. We want to stay in this sweet spot where satisfaction levels continue to run high, with an offering that appeals to our desired visitor demographic. As a culture guest, 2 out of 3 visitors who come to Vienna make the city that little bit better. And 1 out of 10 overnight stays is generated by meeting participants who fit perfectly with Vienna as a leading international meeting destination. Everyone gets the visitor they deserve. What will help us along the way? The Sustainable Tourism Observatory. A new compass in line with the UN tourism guidelines to promote the sustainable development of the visitor economy. Smart data and the principle of destination stewardship will help us to stay on the right track. Making sure that everyone is satisfied is about taking responsibility and getting involved. For all of us. Welcome aboard the Vienna Visitor Economy Strategy.
So, the film anticipated some of my slides upcoming because we have a very strict time management here, and I want to keep in time. So this, you know this under tourism we faced in the pandemic, actually what it doesn't suddenly mean if you have your city for yourself, which is nice, but it's not the original reason for a city, because cities were always places where people from all over the world met. And this is not the normal. Then you have this sort of everyday negotiated level of tourism with this optimum tourism. And of course you have the effect of over-tourism. Where do you see it? You see it in isolated value chains, when only small parts of society make profits, when the costs are socialized, when the costs are taken by the taxpayers, and the profits are only taken by private companies, for instance. So this is a sign where something goes on. And of course, if you make your local people unhappy, this has not always to do with tourism, as I said before. Sometimes it's about media and so on, but it's not to blame anybody, but you have to keep in mind how happy is your local population with tourism. And there's a quote, some of you might not know him, he's an urbanist from London, like Greg Clark, and he in my opinion, he very well defined this term of optimum tourism. I won't read it, you can read it yourselves. And I think this is a very smart definition of optimum tourism. So the objective, you heard it in the film, 2 out of 3 visitors match the desired demographic. So you will ask, what is the desired demographic? It has to do with the DNA of the city. 74% of our visitors come because of art and culture. But it's the question of image, it's a question of aura. Not all of the 74% consume culture. What they all do, they drink and eat. That's what they all do. But not everybody is going to a classical concert. And 10,000 people every night in Vienna go to a classical concert. Every night, 10,000 people. And there are many tourists amongst them, but not all tourists are doing this. Number 2, desired demographic. Convention. Vienna is the #1 convention city in the world. So our conventions go up to 25,000 people. Just now, then in September, we got a huge convention. Why do we want them? Because the impact on the city life is relatively low, because they are in their convention centers, they have dinners, they have after parties, they won't admit it, but they do. But they spend a lot of money. They spend approximately 560 euros a day, compared to an average guest who spends 260 euros a day. So there is a real reason why we are concentrating on this group. And number 3, where we only talk in very qualified audiences, the luxury guest. It's a tricky thing for a tourist board to say in certain markets like the Arabian countries or China, we are only active in the luxury sector, because very soon you are under suspicion of being elitist. And it's not about being elitist, it's about being focused. This objective is not about discrimination. We would never say anybody, don't come. This is a question of marketing, how elegantly do it in marketing. So we are an inclusive city, everybody is welcome. But are you looking for the cheapest beer on the continent? Maybe we are not the right place for that. Do you go on holidays only because of your Instagram feed? Maybe, yes, we have a lot of beauty. The city is breathtaking. But maybe this should not be your major thing to do in holidays. This is almost philosophical, because you have to translate it into marketing terms, which are not pejorative, which are still inclusive, actually. But we still do it. And on the other hand, because it's very important, what do we in everyday practice? For instance, we stopped doing traditional cooperation with a travel agency in Europe, with travel trade. We don't do this anymore. We do it in the luxury sector with third parties, but not a traditional cooperation with travel corporations, for instance. So we really stopped this. Needs a lot of translation within the industry, in the city, of course. But we say, where do we invest? Where do we invest public money? There where the city has the most out of it. Financially, but not only financially, but also in the way how the city works and which guests we want to attract. And of course, meeting participants, 1 out of 10 overnight stays come out of the meeting industry. We are right there at the moment. 1.6 million overnight stays come out from the meeting industry. And maybe the most important is sweet spot I mentioned before. Satisfaction of local people and satisfaction of our guests. We do huge surveys. We ask every year 4,000 Viennese, every month, how satisfied are you with tourism? Are you satisfied? And so on. And still 9 out of 10, but the attendance is going down, say, okay, we're satisfied. And at the same time, 9 out of 10 of our visitors say, we recommend your city to our friends, neighbors, family, you name it. So, and our task is to keep the sweet spot, what we say. This is a very typical Viennese cake. Punschkrapferl, who wants to repeat? Punschkrapferl. And the cherry and the cake is what you saw in the video is moving. And our job is to balance it out, the interest between our guests and the interests of the local people. How are we doing this? You also saw in the video a new compass. We submitted ourselves to a regime of UN Tourism. UN Tourism is the tourism organization of the United Nations, based in Madrid. And we submitted ourselves to monitor in a huge data warehouse these 11 areas. So when you want to see how was the satisfaction of the Viennese people in July 2023, you go there and you see exactly how high or low the satisfaction of the people were. We call it radical transparency, which is nothing special in the Nordic country, actually. You invented it. It's quite a thing on the continent, I can tell you. So it's a real radical strategy to show all the data you have, to share it with the industry, with politics, and really to work on these 11 fields. And just to give you an example, governance, for instance. We knew from our polls, from asking our local people, they were fed up with short-term rentals. People told us, we are fed up that every Saturday night in my apartment next door, I have party from people I don't know. And it took us some time, we got into contact, or we're always in contact with policymakers, and we had a ban for, actually now it's impossible to rent out an apartment for more than 90 days. We have some advantages historic-wise because 60% of the Viennese live in subsidized apartments, so they are prima vista not foreseen for a short-term rental. But this ban above 90 days really came out because of our studies about our information and to make local people happier. Mobility, another thing, a huge success in 2018. 20% of our guests came by train. Today, 30% come by train. And this is again about collaboration. We don't build railway stations, we don't build tracks, but we had a very close cooperation with the national railway services. Vienna is again the best connected city by rail in Europe, so that helps us. So we're focusing on stuff really helps. And when we come to marketing, very briefly, it's important to condense in a way your messages. And our format for this is themed years. We find certain themes which will be played a whole year round, where we include the local industry, but not only the hospitality industry, also the museums, also technology firms, and give them an idea, okay, for this year, we plan this and that. We will give you some examples then. So how can we put together all our energies and to make it a real success? And just some example, very often they are historic themes, of course. Very often they are musical themes. Right now we're celebrating the 200th birthday of Johann Strauss. So it's a given for us to deal with this, but always with this pop cultural twist. It's always a modern twist. And you see just example, Viennese modernism, and so down there you see the increased rates of visits in the big museums in Vienna, showing how tourism can really foster business and can help institutions. So I think I will go over this because I just got a sign. Yeah, this is another important thing, being a killjoy, a new role for a tourist board, to tell people we don't want your activities in the city, which was unknown in the past. Everybody who had a sign on him, tourism, was entitled to get support from the city or from the tourist board. Not anymore. You see on the left side this beer bike, they don't exist in Vienna. A Czech company tried to do it for one day. Hell broke loose. We kicked them out. No way, you won't do this in our city. This is also a very new role for a tourist board. And we are very strict on this. So, this brings me to disaster management at the end. Cooperation wins, especially when you build up the cooperation in good times, you can use it in bad times. And I give you an example for a real bad time we had. Do we have sound? Shall I go back for this guy?
Titled as the biggest show in...
Yeah. You tell me when we can roll the film. Yeah?
Welcome to the Eras Tour! Titled as the biggest show in the world, with more than 150 concerts worldwide. Next stop, Vienna. Fans were eagerly awaiting this special night. Unfortunately, their dream never came true.
A shocking development as authorities say they have thwarted a deadly terrorist plot.
3 upcoming Taylor Swift concerts in Vienna, Austria have been canceled.
While the news was devastating, the safety of the fans came first. Despite the heartbreak, Vienna stood strong. Local businesses, hotels and cultural spaces quickly organised Taylor-themed specials offering discounts and support to the disappointed Swifties. Together, the city turned a moment of fear into one of unity, proving that even in difficult times, the spirit of Taylor's music could still bring people together.
So, yeah. One sentence to this. You see here the dimension happened worldwide. What we did, or especially what my social media team did, the Swifties are very well organized. They're sweet people, very optimistic, positive people. We've, at a very early stage, we connected with them on social media. There are hundreds of millions, actually, so we really have power there. And as the catastrophe struck, we could switch on the consoling mode, actually, with the Swifties, and it really came back in a very positive way. And one remark, management-wise, what happened in the company. I'm the oldest leader in the company. I'm the CEO. The departure heads are about 40 to 45. Our social media team is about 25 to 30. And I said, you take over. Forget the oldies. I give you some hard shoulders and everything, but you are in charge now. I deal with City Hall, I deal with the mayor. That's my job, but you are in charge of the communication. And it was really also for me personally a very exciting experience. So to let loose, actually. You're not the most important person in the room. And this was actually an amazing thing. So we would have hoped that it did not happen, of course, but we learned a lot. And we took some of the learnings because we are hosting the next Eurovision Song Contest, where I'm personally in charge for the committee on the city side. So we did it in 2015, and we do it again. So we are very excited about this order. And I think now it's, the cruise summer turns into Shake It Off. And now, end with the word rap. Thank you very much.